I'm gonna do something. I have been in meetings straight from 10 o'clock this morning, and I have my lunch sitting here. I'm gonna turn off my video and stuff my face so you don't have to watch me eat. I'm gonna be totally listening. So,
That's fine. Can you eat and tell us what we're looking at?
uh,
What is this thing?
it's an inside of a. I would think it's an inside of an Aulacasira.
That's where I started, but I don't see like a ring leaf structure, and it's very
Well,
short
I mean,
mantled.
it looks like there's a little bit of of a a little. I mean, yeah, I'd say the ring life is of some variability in how deep it goes into the thing, but it looks like one of these sort of shallow mantled
Yeah. Okay.
distans type groups.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I was. Oh, Joe's.
Interesting. It looks like at 4 o'clock you actually have the. It looks like you might have caught the labiate process there. Maybe? No, I don't think so.
I
That
think it's
looks like
just a gap in the.
just a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Joe
That's
was
what I would guess that is.
Joe was scribbling on my screen for a second there.
I remembered that you can draw. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can like give you a mustache or something.
Oh, oh, are we giving out mustaches? Because I have something for that. I got a little mustache I can put on the screen.
Oh man.
There we go.
Oh, I love it.
Can you
Make
see that?
out of an epithemia though.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see.
So
Right.
if I draw on that, does that go on to your stream on Twitch or whatever, or is that just?
I don't think so. I saw it though, so I was confused as to how I was seeing it because it's like showing the zoom. I'm on the zoom image. I'm looking on the zoom image. I'm sorry, you're
Oh,
looking at
that's
the zoom image and I'm looking at the actual SEM.
right.
So I saw it from the zoom image,
Yeah,
but
I'm just drawing on the zoom image,
right.
so that wouldn't jump over. Okay. Yeah.
You don't have the power to draw into my Twitch stream yet. I guess we could figure out a way to do that. But
What sample are we looking at?
this is Ashfall 17. That's how it was sent to me, labeled. So, Joe, what's 17 mean?
2017.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's easy enough. So, all the stuff you see in the background is very likely ash. And then these diatoms are here, sort of in between them. This is the Aulacasira we were just looking at, I suspect.
Yeah.
Here's the external view of that guy. Very short mantle.
Are you taking images of any of these, Jeffrey?
Did you want me to?
I don't think it would hurt as long as you get them. We're getting them up and in the center. I think it'd be great just to start doing it. Part of this whole project is to potentially develop some outreach materials for the Ashfall site. I can't remember what their official title is. State Historical Society.
So I'm just sort of tweaking my focus a little bit. And then... So we are streaming. People can hear you, but they can't see you. So, but my guests are Joe Mohan, who's been on the stream before.
Hello.
Working on his doctorate with Jasmine Sorrows. And nearing completion from what I hear. And then the other guest is Dr. Mark Edlund.
Hi, folks.
And I'm pretty sure they can hear you. I checked the sound seemed to be working. But I guess I need to look and see what they're saying to make sure. So somebody said hello. Yeah, they can hear you. Good. So if you have questions, you can just throw them out in chat, and I'll try to bounce back here occasionally and see what the questions are. But we're looking at some ancient diatoms. These were collected in 2017, but they are from materials that are 10 million years old, correct? From Ashfall?
Yeah.
11.
11. 11.
There you go.
Just trying to get the oldest materials.
It's just a million years.
I mean, what's a million years between friends? Nate the Nomad wants to know, how are they dated?
And I should let you geologists answer that. But
Probably.
the site's dated in part by its tephra or volcanic ash, which is what covers it. The site, just to orient everyone, is near the town of Royal or Valentine, Nebraska. It was discovered in the 1970s by Mike Voorhees, who's a paleontologist at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And the site is extremely interesting. It appears to have been a watering hole in the middle of a savanna. And in 11 million years ago, a volcano near where Yellowstone is exploded and blanketed Nebraska, southern South Dakota, Wyoming with a layer of ash. And the ash layer is about 6 inches thick in the geologic record, except where this watering hole was. It's much thicker because it was a low spot in the plains. And what happens is when animals experience this silica ash in their environment and it starts to affect them, they seek out water. So the animals congregated around this watering hole, got in it, and died. And they died in a sequence of their vulnerability to this. So at the bottom of the watering hole are birds and turtles and things like that. And then as you go up, you get camels and horses. And at the top, you get rhinoceri. Rhinoceri? That have passed away in these beautiful, these tragic layers of things. And the animals are mostly fully articulated skeletons. But what we're looking at today is trying to determine what this pond was actually like. So we're looking at the sediments or the ash that filled the pond, trying to find the diatoms, because diatoms are super important and they tell us about historic water quality and habitat conditions in these kinds of places.
I think it's rhinoceroses because
rhinoceroses
it ends OS, not US.
Oh, okay.
So I think it
I
has
do
to
like
be.
rhinoceri. That sounds better.
I agree with you, but I do think it's rhinoceroses.
All right.
But we could maybe get it checked. We can have somebody. We'll put somebody on that. Okay, Ashfall 17. Sorry, I'm just archiving the files as we collect them. The pictures, I mean. This is an Aulicosyra with a very short mantle. And let's see. Oh, Anna Nestrovich is here in the chat.
Hey, Anna.
And she says it's a special Wednesday, so she can be here. And she says, hi, everybody. I don't know what's special about the Wednesday, but maybe she doesn't have to work. And Nathan Nomad said that your conversation about Ashfall and its origin story was incredibly interesting. And then Cyanide Teacups is here as a guest. She subscribed to the channel earlier. That's a way they can show support by putting some money in. And she said, according to Google, rhinoceroses or rhinoceri.
All right.
So I guess you can do whatever you want. It's English, but so we can just do whatever.
take both.
And Anna said that it's because her son had an exam that she could be with us. So I guess we should thank M for having an exam. Hopefully he did well. Okay, so we've just been staring at one Alicocera, but there's a lot of stuff in the sample. A lot of the particles that you see, is, as I mentioned, are just ash. It's where the ashfall gets its name from.
Ooh, there's the Alico.
Yeah, this is looks a little cruddy.
Huh.
This is, I think, Canadensis or something like that. It's got this sort of puzzle piece style spines. It's like fat knob on one and a fat knob on the other, and they kind of fit into each other. I don't know. You agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you're in the right group. Since it's 11 million years old, it's something.
Well, because it's 11 million years old, I can just say whatever I want.
Yeah, there you go.
And if Mark says it's okay, and Joe doesn't care, and Anna thinks it's all right, then we're in good shape. It's a little...
All that consensus.
Right. Scientific consensus in the channel is that it's related to Canadensis. And then we also have these elliptical valves, which I think are probably alveolophoras. That's a phytolith right there. You can see there's a little phytolith right there.
Beautiful.
It's got junk on it. We can do better.
Okay.
That's how I feel about everything. All the time. It's like, yeah, that's okay. We can do better than that. And we're looking for a whole bunch of things in these samples. So pretty much any diatom you want me to stop and sort of characterize is that?
I think that would be good.
This one's also pretty broken up. Oh, this is actually kind of interesting because the mantles, the girdle bands are still attached on the mantle, so the underlying diatom actually looks okay, but the girdle band's making it look like trash. So we'll find better stuff. So this is the first time Mark's been on my SEM virtually, right?
Yeah, this is great. I love it.
And this is that Alicocera again, just the little mantled one. It's actually a little bit cleaner of an image, so I might also collect this one.
Okay.
And I can get a lot closer, but I haven't played.
Hey, Maui Souri.
I haven't played with the stigmation or any of those things yet, so I might need to do just a little bit of tweaking. And while I was talking, somebody subscribed, so I should go see who that was.
Nate the Nomad.
Oh, was it Nathan Nomad?
No, Nate the Nomad, it said.
All right. Oh, you're watching the Twitch stream? It looks okay. I mean, we're at 500 nanometers on the scale bar, so I sort of feel like that's okay. There's a little bit of movement on that.
Not too much, though.
Now there's even less, so whatever. That one's okay. That was the wobble. And I have us at beam intensity 7. So, I think it looks good enough.
It's pretty.
Very nice.
We'll wait through 3 minutes of that. And thanks to Nate for the subscription. So, Mark, are you watching anonymously, or do you have a secret, you have a Twitch account that you've been stalking us?
I have not made a Twitch account.
Okay.
I just signed in via your Zoom, so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but how did you see...
Oh, a little screen popped up on
my Zoom window?
In your Zoom window.
Oh, that's interesting.
The screen that you've shared with us through Zoom is your Twitch screen. So we're watching.
Oh. You know, I should
Folks
fix
at home
that.
are watching the other Zoom view.
I should fix that so you guys are just watching the actual Zoom channel instead of watching my OBS screen. Unless you want to see what people are saying, because I guess then you could see the
Yeah, this is kind of nice too, and then we can
see the chat.
if questions pop up, we can address them as well.
Well, you probably got a better eye on them than I do, because I don't actually see the screen with the... You're looking into my OBS window?
Yeah, so we see right now Nathan Ahmed asks, this is an electron microscope, correct? And yes, this is a Vega 3 scanning electron microscope.
Test scan, Vega 3.
Test scan.
Oh, so then you can see... Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It's all making a lot more sense now. I thought, oh, you were logged in through watching it on Twitch, which you could do. There's just a slight delay. So you're seeing a no delay version of the chat channel, so that's good.
Yep, and someone chimed in that it is a scanning electron microscope, not a transmission electron microscope.
Yeah. Can I explain a little bit as to how an electron microscope works? I sure can. Let's see. You guys, this is at the top here is an electron gun, and the gun is actually produced by a tungsten filament. So like a light bulb has, it's got tungsten in there. Except for, in this case, a lot more energy is being pushed through it, and it creates a small plasma cloud of electrons. And then it's also heated a little bit. And the electrons are sort of floating around in this upper area in a cloud called the Weinheld cap. And then there's an anode. So if you remember from, I don't know, chemistry or physics, that just means it has a positive charge, and electrons have a negative charge. So the electrons are basically drawn out of the Weinheld cap, and they're sort of accelerated towards the sample. And if they were moving through air, what would happen is they would become dispersed. So all of this happens in a vacuum. Everything you're seeing inside the chamber happens in a vacuum. And then it works basically like a microscope after that, except for the electrons are taking the place of light. So you'll see there's a thing there that says magnetic lenses, and that's because everything is electrons. The way that you would focus the beam so that it doesn't get dispersed is there's magnets, and the magnets are basically the lenses. They keep the beam going in the direction and the place that we want to put it. And then this thing has a little backscatter detector in the diagram, but my backscatter detector is actually pulled out right now. It's disengaged. And then our specimen is not an ant, of course, but a diatom, but it's the same idea. The electrons hit this specimen, and then electrons are knocked out of the specimen and into the chamber. And there's a positive charge on the secondary electron detector, which is this sort of like orange thing in this diagram. And inside of that secondary electron detector is like a photoreceptor sort of thing that when electrons hit it, they light up. And when more electrons hit it, it lights up more. And when less electrons hit it, it's dimmer. So what it does, it goes by point, each place that the electron beam is sampling in the image that you're seeing in a line. So the scan that we're seeing is actually, it's building the image point by point. And if it's a bright pixel, it puts a bright color on there, or bright pixel into the drawing or the photograph. And then it just goes through line by line basically and builds the image that way. So that's more or less the model for it. And if you're wondering about the beam interaction is sort of like this. The beam comes in, it creates this sort of vase-shaped structure, and the secondary electrons are the ones that we're capturing for the image. And they are sort of shallow in the actual sample, and they give mostly topographic information. In other words, they show us what the surface is like. So think of it like the electron beam as a flashlight, and the surface is the surface, and the secondary detector is your eye. So it's basically just brighter surfaces are going to show up as a brighter surface in the detector. And then there's other electron interactions that happen. The electron beam that's coming in will also interfere or knock electrons out of atoms all the way through the sample. And some of them will give off characteristic X-rays when they move from a higher shell to a lower shell. And so we can use that to get elemental information. And I have an elemental analyzer on the SEM here. And then there's also backscattered electrons, which come out of the sample, but they can't move as far. And they give us some idea about the density of the material. But we're just looking at silica right now, so there's not really a lot of density difference. So if I switched over to the backscatter detector, it would look basically the same. If we were looking at metals, if we were looking at meteorite for something like that, then it would make a big difference. So how's that? Good enough? Hopefully.
Very good.
Okay. So
Oh.
what were you going to say, Mark?
Oh, I just say someone's asked what the difference between a scanning and a transmission electron microscope are.
Yeah, in a scanning electron microscope, it's sort of like, if you know what a stereoscopic normal microscope is that use lights, a scanning electron microscope is sort of like that. You have incident light coming from the top, it hits the surface, and then it creates a topographic or three-dimensional image that you can focus on the surface. And in the case of the scanning electron microscope, you can actually see a little bit into the subsurface, but not very far. With a transmitted electron microscope, it functions more like a standard upright transmission light microscope. In other words, the electrons pass all the way through, and the sensors are on the other side of it. So think of it sort of like you're seeing an X-ray of the material rather than seeing the surface. That's the simple explanation.
And when you prepare samples for transmission electron microscopy, you often are only looking at extremely thin layers of cells that have been sliced. If you put a diatom in a transmission electron microscope, it looks black because it's just a big, thick thing of silica. And maybe the only thing you really detect in that transmission electron microscopes are these little tiny holes, like that picture in the lower right there. You can see those little circular things there that are full of little holes, and you'll see that type of detail in a transmission electron microscope. But we pretty rarely use transmission electron microscopes for diatom work, especially for what we're doing today.
I've never used one. I've never even seen one, actually.
I've used one. You have to you have to take your diatoms, you have to fix them with some pretty potent fixatives, and then you embed them in epoxies, and then you cut the little thin layers of them with a diamond knife. And of course, using a diamond knife on a glass cell wall of a diatom is a dangerous venture. But you do get little thin layers of diatoms where you would then see the cellular contents of the diatom, the nucleus, the chloroplast, any kind of vacuoles and things like that that are in mitochondria. I've done it. I took a class when I was much younger.
So this is interesting.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting. That looks like punctustriata.
It sure does.
Striae, but that does not look like any punctustriata that I know.
Oh.
You recognize anything like that from punctustriata?
I mean, I think normally in a light microscope you would
Leptocerus.
Yeah, you'd call it a leptostaron or something along
Leptostaron,
those
yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
And although there is a little bit of possible lineolae on some of those.
Yeah, right in here.
Yeah.
But these ones are connected. There's a connecting all the way through all of them.
I think it's a good one to get an image of, and a possible something possible to could be something new. It is a very weird punctustriata, if that's what it is.
There, I think maybe at like 10 o'clock was maybe a hint of a spine popping up too.
They all have spines.
See when it comes in the focus.
I turned it so that I rotated the stage, so it's maximizing the shape. But
Your scope allows you to rotate the stage and hold the position of the thing?
it does.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I can tilt the stage, and it will also keep it in position. So I can rotate and tilt.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
You know, This was the only that was the only reason that all the Nintendo game players could do SEM microscopy, because it involves we used to have these XY micrometers that would move stuff around, and then you rotate it and you kind of back everything out, and it was actually quite a feat to rotate something and keep it and be able to find it again and tilt it.
Yes. So, I mean, I learned on one of those older machines, and you'd have to hold your arm out here to do all of the like stage control, right? So like I got used to like doing this, not using a mouse. It was always just like one arm stuck out, like trying to move X and Y and then rotate. But like if you wanted to rotate something around, it was like this is going to be a half hour to like reposition this so I don't lose it. But you can also see into the actual chamber. You can see that it's holding 6 stubs at once.
Yeah, I see that.
And all of the stubs are on the outside edge. So when I rotate it, it actually recalculates the position. Like it's not like it's the middle stub and it's just spinning it. It actually is recalculating its position, so that I don't need to do any of that shenanigans. I love my SEM. It's a delight to use. And this is how we made these 3D models. So like the 3D models that I made from the Stephanodiscus coruscus, for example, this was done through photogrammetry, and all I did was basically take pictures of the same diatom from 70 different angles, and then use the computer to basically put it together, and it created a 3D model. So I think it's the only way that you can do these easily. I'm sure people have done photogrammetry from the SEM before, but probably not in that kind of a detail, because it's challenging to try to get more than a few angles of the same specimen without having the ability to just click on it and spin it. So this is weird punctus striata thing.
I might have been looking at it, trying to ponder whether I would convert it to a Styrella or not. But that's so interesting. It doesn't have any pore fields on that. At least this lower pore, or lower.
This one does.
Does it have a little pore
They're
field?
very small.
Okay.
I'll zoom in on it so we can see them, but they're very, very small in here. And it's not like the normal, I don't know, like square patch or whatever you usually see. It's just really subtle. I don't know that I could even get them in a way that you could see them, but in that previous picture I saw some down there. They're just really subtle. Oops, let's try... I'll just put it in this one little area and slow it on the beam. Probably better when I had it on the other side so I could actually see things to get it into focus, because it's just like a block right there. Hang on.
Well, if it's only got a pore field on one end versus the other, that's
Yeah, I'm not seeing them, but I could see it in the picture. I could see like really faint pores right in here on the top, not on the edge.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at the picture. I think probably you'll see what I was talking about, but I'm not sure about the other end. Yeah, if they're there, they're super subtle.
Yeah, they are.
Up in here, maybe. It could also be there's a little bit of clay or something on them.
Sure.
But I agree with you. These definitely look like they're lineolate in part, and then they have a crossbar. Right there's a crossbar.
Yeah, I think I would do a little bit of a sort of literature survey to see what kind of variability it this punctostrata is able to give us. But they do. I mean, they do. You're right. Many of them. It doesn't look like gunk. It looks like silicon there for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are
They're up to
crossbars.
2 occasionally.
Let's see. I'll take a picture like this with a little bit more. Hang on, I'm gonna do one other thing before I do that. Let's see. That's good. I'm gonna also move us a little closer because we're at 10 millimeters and we could probably be at 5. But I think you can see up in here, there's all kinds of connectors. That's definitely silica. That's definitely silica.
Yeah.
Somebody always wants to know what my operating system is. It's the operating system, I think, is Windows 7 or 8. Well, sometimes it's like watching paint dry.
And the slower it dries, the better your image you're going to get, right?
It's true.
At least the better quality of the image that's being gathered.
It's true. I could slow it down farther. The Speed 7 beam intensity 7 is my normal, sort of like, I don't know, good quality, not great quality.
Yeah.
If we get something that you really want me to, get a great picture of, I can slow it down, and then we'll just take a 10-minute photo. It'll be fine.
So, Jeffrey, did you ever learn this when you had to use Polaroid film?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, the first SEM I used was a JEOL that, I don't remember the number of it, but it used Polaroid film.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
To get the whole filament started, it looked like you're in a submarine or something with like a little thing that beeped over, and you had to like get the peak perfect, to get the highest contrast, and then
fully saturated.
Yep. And then you'd take a picture, and then you'd like rub the Polaroid in your hand, try to get the chemicals to go a little bit better, and then wait for 5 minutes or something, and then peel it open and be like, crap, I gotta take this picture again.
Yep.
Yeah. That was at Nebraska when I started there. Dave Watkins had a SEM, and I was just so excited to use an SEM. I didn't even care. I was like, this thing's amazing. And that was 2002 or something. It wasn't that long ago.
Huh.
And the SEMs have actually come a long way since then. But,
this is amazing, watching this. Yeah, this was those $3.50 a shot to take those Polaroid images or whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the bright side, I learned a lot about how to use the SEM, and I feel like now that I have this, SEM for Dummies, that I'm actually like, I appreciate what it can do a little bit better, and also I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit better when it comes to utilizing it. So, this is all mouse driven. I just click on whatever I want with the mouse button, and then it just goes where I clicked. That's that Oligocera again. Very little version of it.
Gunji.
Yeah, and these samples we put into the ultrasonic water bath for a short period to try to get some of the material kind of broken free. I didn't want to... Holocosera again. I didn't want to run it for too long because I was worried it would start to shatter diatoms, but I don't think we ran into that problem here at all.
Good.
Or if I did, I didn't notice it. That is either a microsphere or a chrysophyte.
Shouldn't be microscope.
There's an alveolophora up top there at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I think that was a chrysophyte. It's just we often do find those in these samples.
This is a not very exciting version of alveolophora. It's just the ring least. It's a super thick ring least. And then there's one of these canadensis looking Holococeras up here. I'm being a little conservative with my zoom. I could probably zoom out a little farther and find us something a little bit faster. Oops. You can see they're in little rows because the stubs that they're on were milled with slight ridges on them. What is this?
Really?
Not on purpose. I think they're just a little bit poorly made or something.
So these are you mounted the material directly onto the stub,
Yes.
and then you've also coated it, right?
Yes, that's normally how I do all of my SEM stuff. Is for diatoms, I will. So you can see into the chamber here, right? You have this view.
Yep.
I don't know what's visible. The little metal cylinders that are like 10 millimeters tall. I just dry them directly onto that surface, and then the Tescantix T-shaped stubs that I use carbon tape to attach them, and then I put the whole thing in the sputter coater. So that's my normal sort of process for everything's always Holocosera.
Yeah, the Ashfall site has got lots of Holocosera, and then there's little fragilarioids like that Leptostaron / Punctostrata we saw. We more rarely find some things like right down, probably, I don't know, halfway to 6 o'clock. There's probably a girdle band that may be a tetracyclus.
Yep. Yeah, that's a tetracyclus.
You find some tetracyclus in here.
That's this thing. Yeah, you can see the septa still on it. So.
Yep. And then we find some diatoms that may be a little more indicative of salinity, so water level changes in this watering hole. So sometimes we'll find Petoceras spores. You see lots of Anomanias fragments, and then sometimes Hantia is in here as well. But there's a handful of pennate diatoms that show up in these samples as well.
Yeah. So I have some other pictures from these same sample that I've already collected, and actually a lot of them. But I can show you this to you later.
Okay.
I'll share that folder too when we're done here. And I actually have two.
There we go.
Amphora or something, maybe.
Probably a little. Little symboloid. What do we got? Looks like a little Symbella. And Cyanema.
I think Encynema.
Yeah.
It looks like it's curling right there.
Correct. Yep.
So towards the ventral side.
Can you hit that alveolophora that was just to the, I don't know, the right of it?
Yeah, it's right. Your right is my right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I was hoping we might pick up the characteristics of alveolophora. Most alveolophores are oval like this.
Mm-hmm.
But we really want to get this one's kind of interesting because it's the valve face is cracked open on it. What it has are some silica ridges that run along the internal circumference of the diatom, if that makes sense. Much more easy to see in the light microscope because you're transmitting the light through. And I thought maybe this one would have it's a little peek inside to see those. But
We got junk inside.
yeah, it looks like it's got junk inside.
Well, there's probably enough of the alveolophora we'll be able to find some with a costate. I think I have 2 stubs of this sample, by the way. So, and I think the other stub actually has a little bit more mass on it.
Awesome.
I think we did one that was like really light and one that was a little bit heavier, just so that we could have some in case they were kind of a little too dense. I was worried I was going to run into too dense as a problem. So there's another one over here. That's a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a pre-Icelandic sort of something like.
I'll take your word for it.
Nah, yeah. One with straight rows of Aurelia on the mantle.
Yes. And
Those spines.
yeah, give me a second. I'm going to get us a little closer. I kept forgetting to do that.
This one even looks like you'll see some crypta in there.
Let's see what I can do about this. Yeah, I don't know if those are just occlusions or if that's clay or what that is. It's not perfectly visible. So, what you been doing, Mark?
Well, last week I was on a little vacation. We went to Utah, so
I heard that.
got to experience that in-your-face geology that exists out west and doesn't exist in Minnesota, where I am right now. But it was amazing.
So you went to Bryce Canyon,
Yep.
and what else did you go
We
to?
went to Zion.
You're right there. You might as well.
Yeah. We went to Capitol Reef,
Oop.
Arches, and Canyonlands, and then we spent also a day at the Bear River National Wildlife Refuge. We did some serious birding there. So
You left a little bit for the rest of it for another visit.
yeah, and I can say that many of the parks you wish you had more time to spend in there. It's just they're very spectacular.
Yeah. See any good birds?
I think we added about 5 or 6 new ones that I had never seen. All Western species that were blue grosbeak, black-headed grosbeak, Townsend's warbler. What else? I had never seen a black-necked stilt.
Oh.
That was a bird to see.
You went to some sort of marshlands?
Yeah, we went up to this Bear River National Wildlife Refuge. So, what else did we see that was Lazuli bunting? Oh man, there's some cool birds there.
When I went to Arizona for sabbatical, I probably added 40 birds that I'd never seen
Wow.
before. There was a lot. But I just added a new bird from my yard.
Which one? Which warbler?
You've seen all those warblers in my yard, right?
Yeah.
I've been streaming those onto Twitch. So as I'm collecting them, I'm actually I've been actually using my camera as a video plus also I could take pictures at the same time. But there was all kinds of things I'd never seen in my yard before, but it was actually not a warbler at all. Just a wood thrush.
Oh.
I'd never seen one. They're very, all the thrushes are very, except for the robins, of course, are very like secretive kind of birds. They don't let you
Mm-hmm.
get very close. And this one just flew right into my backyard. And I
Great.
was like, whoa. I've had Swainson's thrush in my yard
Okay.
before, and I have gray-cheeked thrush.
Sure.
Those are the two that are always there, and robins. But I never had a wood thrush in my yard, and I'd never seen one out in the woods either. So
Jeffrey, what was the sparrow that was feeding the cowbird?
song sparrow.
It was a song. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It was sort of bending down, and all I could see was its head, and so I couldn't see its breast very well.
That was totally fascinating to me when it was going on. I was like, the cowbird was just hopping around, like chirping and chirping and chirping, and it was like harassing that song sparrow. And then it started feeding, and I thought, oh, that's actually, that bird thinks it's its mom. Like,
Yep.
you know, like that's the parasitic cowbird. I was completely confused while it was happening, though. I was like, why is it chasing just this one bird around? Like, there's all the other birds that are in the yard. It would focus on that one bird. And then it started feeding it, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
The Webclex asked a question, and said, "What's that sample holder called? We typically call it a stub. You know, the little sample holder that we put the diatoms on."
So I think they can see this.
Oh.
This is like what you're looking at in there. So for reference, inside the SEM, if you're wondering like how big are those stubs, they're 12.5 millimeters across, I think, and then they're about 10 millimeters high. And that's the carousel that you're seeing. It just sits on a pin, and then each one of these has a little pin as well that it sits in on the carousel. So they're sort of T-shaped stubs. They're like this, and then there's little holes that they just sit in. But I can. Another thing that's nice about the SEM is that I can just click on, I want to look at a different stub, and it'll just move me right to that stub. So
That's great.
I just want to make everybody feel bad about how nice my SEM is. I can do that for us. I think that's actually good. You can see the spines in here are kind of spatulate shaped.
Mm-hmm.
So moving in did help.
Yeah, that looks nice. You have to bring it out a little.
Yeah, I can Photoshop and tweak it a bit too. Let's see what this guy is. Oh, this one's got the bit of the girdle band on it, but I think it's the one we were just looking at.
Yeah,
A little twisted, you know?
a little bit.
We just come up with our own names for them. I call this one Atlantic alike.
There's I think it's like a Makarova name of Pre-Icelandica.
Prae pre?
I think it's Prae,
Yeah.
Icelandica.
Yeah. Okay.
Heavily suggestive.
Is that its actual name?
Oh yeah. It's I think it encompasses these fossil forms.
Okay. I think
I
this.
think I got the author right. I'm not sure. You could check it.
We'll fact check you later.
Yeah, I'll-
That's just an end view of the Canadensis-like one, I think. I think if we could see the spines, they would look like little puzzle pieces. All right, I am going to try to hop over and see if the other one's slightly more dense. I think it's 4. That's the same sample. Maybe it's less dense. It's worse. That has hardly anything on it.
You still have plenty of sample not on steps.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to run out of material.
Yeah, I was just asking because I think I sent you a quarter of the residue that exists. I could potentially send more. Sounds like you're good.
Yeah, we're all right. I think it's just we're trying to be cautious when we were making it to keep it from getting a little too crowded on the stub. We're mostly trying to, I think we were looking through these for the little tiny cyclotella-like things, which we did find some.
In the asphalt? You found some?
I shouldn't have found them in Ashfall, probably.
Let's see.
The Grove Lake is full of them.
Oh, it's probably the
Another
Grove.
site,
Yeah.
Chalk Mountain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did look up that pre-Icelandic, and it's actually a Jose taxon, not a. In 1952, Melosira pre-Icelandica.
Somebody will care. I think, somebody
Transferred by Simonson in '79. Melosira.
Where was that described from?
Lake Honka. Where is that lake? I think it's, let's say, southeast Siberia. Miocene material.
This looks like a relatively well-behaved Starosira.
Well behaved.
I mean,
I'd rather see troublemakers.
Feel free to grab a picture of that. Jeffrey, did I miss? Did you go to the thicker stub?
This was the thicker stub.
Okay, you did. Okay,
I haven't moved. I went to it and it was lightly. That one was lightly covered, so I went back to this one. So we were on the good one.
Okay.
For 17, I think I have Grove and 16 or 15 or whatever the other one is in here as well. So I will grab this.
Okay.
Mystery Starosira. Well, I feel like it's Starosira. Also don't see an apical pore field on it, though.
Looks like a possible little tiny thing at the top there.
Up in here? Or underneath this?
A couple little dots there, but maybe that could be a cyc.
Yeah. These spines are sort of like fanning out at the top. So, I don't know if you want to talk about before we started the stream, we were talking a little bit about spines. Joe and I were talking a little bit about spines. And Mark might find it interesting. I don't know if you want to reveal it. So we were having this conversation before when Joe came and we were thinking about like, what's the purpose of spines on diatoms? And I mean, the ones that are used to join colonies together, it's obvious what their purpose is. But for organisms that don't join colonies and have spines, I'm at a loss as to what they do most of the time. And where it becomes relevant is like Cyclotella have spines, Lindavia don't have spines, right? So like They're more or less living in the same kind of condition, but you know, one has spines and one doesn't. So it doesn't, and clearly, Lindavia are, whatever, descended somehow from Cyclotella in a way. So it means that they lost their spines, probably, right? You agree with those statements, Mark?
Yep, yep.
So a lot of people tell me, oh, the spines are probably so they're bigger and they're harder to consume. But like a lot of the Stephanodiscus spines are very small, and I don't think they would help an organism keep from being eaten. So we were trying to figure out like what could spines do. You know what I mean? Like how could they help you if you're not using them to join? And one of our arguments was that Joe and I, there's an apical pore field. One of the arguments that Joe and I had was that we thought they could be storing excess silica there, like as a way of like sequestering it. But the problem is that there's an expense to spines as well, because if you're in an environment and you don't have the silica for building a valve, why waste it on this like thing that you don't even use for anything, right? You see our conundrum? So
So the hypothesis we are thinking about is how do, or that spines will influence whether they float or sink, or how they respond to flow and get pushed around.
that there's some sort of aerodynamic positioning that happens on a small scale that they might help with. And part of this came into conversation because of Joe's three-dimensional modeling of Stephanodiscus, where we observed in the paper that he put out. When did that come out? Just like a couple of months ago, right, Joe?
Yeah. Spring.
We're still in spring, technically. But
yeah, recently.
But so part of that modeling experiment that he did was, the observations that we have is that when you get large, the spines become very expensive with respect to the amount of silica that they're using. So
25%.
Yeah, 25% of their silica
Actually,
biomass.
Mark knows this paper pretty well.
Might have seen it before.
Right.
Oh, that's an interesting diatom on screen.
Oh,
What is this?
it's probably a
Amphora?
Paleamphora.
But what?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Too bad the center is covered, but the rest of it looks
Well, we can get a better image of the Raphi, but
One of the when I did my master, and back to the spine discussion here, but when I did my master's work, I grew one diatom species under variable silica supply rates
Mhm.
to see what it did. It clearly influenced their growth rate or the division rate, but it also was manifested in what the end product, the end product, their valves looked like as an end product. And the one thing that didn't seem to change much was the spines. They seemed to instead place a lot more silica on the external surface of the valve as what they ended up putting out as a valve.
Mhm.
So the way I'm approaching that question is putting some of these 3D models into fluid dynamic software
Okay.
and then running them through essentially wind tunnels, but water tunnels, seeing what happens. The results are too preliminary to really even say much about, but they act differently based on their spines. I can say that with confidence. But, yeah, I think that's going to be the next big push I work on here for a little while on that front.
Sorry, I'm just checking the quality here. I think it's okay. It's a little bright on the edge, but I feel like it needs to be in order for us to see the internal part. What a weird diatom. Seen anything like this before?
Yeah, only at Ashfall.
Okay.
We actually, we actually, many years at the one of the connections to this site in Ashfall is that we teach a diatom class at Iowa Lakeside Laboratories every summer, except these last two, of course. But there's a virtual class that's available this year.
I saw that. I advertised it on my Twitter for you.
Awesome, thanks. But one of the field trips that we always took was a full day to go visit this Ashfall site. And a few years ago, we had a undergraduate in the class that picked up on this diatom and wrote a little, what we used to call a species treatment of it. But it's a funky Halamphora from Ashfall site. Get enough images of it, probably is a new species.
All right, then.
There you go. So take the shot. You're doing it.
Well, we got a good shot of what it looks like on the valve ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little torsioned or something. It's really kind of interesting.
Is that a stigma? Kind of tucked.
This hole?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's not supposed to have one, right?
Halamphora, no.
Okay. So I guess I've been ignoring the chat a little bit. Let's see. Fruit Loops. How many samples have I gone through today? Actually, this is just one. We started basically when the stream started, so there are lots of people there now. I guess that was a long time ago. I don't know what it's about. Hi, Pacific Plankton. How you doing? Oh, you're heading home from the beach survey. Okay, good.
Good news, everyone!
Thank you for the follow. Mean Machine Rex wants to know, do diatoms break at a particular site when they die? They do in a way. The girdle bands usually snap, and then they usually divide into two. Or, that's the most common place I see them kind of break apart. That doesn't necessarily happen right when they die, but that's the first place I think that's the weakest point for most of them. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, typically I'd say the most common thing that happens when they die is that the two valves separate, and you get sort of two halves of the Petri plate falling thing. But there's many times when you have looking at a sample of sediment from the bottom of the lake, there's a lot of diatoms that are completely dead that look like a whole valve that's still put together. The trouble with people who study diatoms is we're kind of mean to them. We cook them in acid, and we cook them in peroxide, and we sonicate them and stuff like that. So we typically try to separate those valves so we can study them better.
Whenever people ask me, do I feel bad about killing diatoms, I always tell them they're clones. Just think of them.
That's a good answer. There's still one out there somewhere.
Yeah, I was like, they're like stormtroopers. You don't really get attached to them. They're just clones. They'll make more. They're not gonna. And then I explained to them they could replicate several times in a single night. And somebody asked me in one of my recent streams if they had cloned me, would I care if one of my clones died? And I said, well, if I could do it like 6 times a night, probably I wouldn't care that much. One of me would, but the rest of me wouldn't. They're clones.
Hey, Jeffrey, can we pop over to grow folks?
Sure. I was trying to see if I could find that Helymphora really quickly as an external view, but I didn't. So, but I'll come back and search for it when you guys aren't around.
Yeah.
And I'll keep it in mind as a thing I can look for. So this is, I'll zip over to Grove for us. We'll take a visit. And this may be the less sparse sample. Let me make sure that we don't have a better one. Yeah, this is a little bit better. What are we looking for?
Circles.
Circles?
Circles.
I can find circles. That's easy.
Cyclotelloids. Sort of quilensis looking things.
Mm-hmm. That is a ring list, I'm pretty sure. How small are these things? Is it this one? Yeah.
Pretty big. Oh, yeah.
That's a quilensis looking thing right there. It will be when I get it in focus.
So this one, we've moved over to the Grove Lake sample now?
Yeah.
Okay. So for, just to put some geographical and geological context on this sample here, is the Ashfall site is located about, it must be maybe 6 to 8 miles from another ash deposit, except that ash deposit is 6 million years old. So you move 7 miles and you've jumped 6 million years. And it too is another ash deposit that resulted from a volcanic eruption over near Yellowstone National Park.
Same volcano, 6 million years apart.
Yeah, yeah. And then, and anyway, the ash deposit it's called Grove Lake or Chalk Mountain, they sometimes refer to it.
Chalk Mountain?
It's the ash itself is very thick. It's probably 2 meters thick, 6 feet thick. And it has diatoms in it, and it appears to have been it has very different diatoms in it. It appears to be a very different type of a habitat. It wasn't a shallow watering hole in the middle of a savanna, but instead probably more of a lake-like habitat that existed. And it's got some really interesting round diatoms in it of various genera.
Webclex asked what would happen if I tried to scan an unprepared sample. Well, it would be unprepared. For diatoms, the problem is that the edges would accumulate electrons, and then everywhere there was an edge, basically, I would get bright spots. So it would just result in a sort of a crappy picture. If it were something made out of metal, you could just stick it straight into the SEM. You don't need to prepare it in any way. Or anything that really conducts electricity well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be metal. The whole idea of sputter coating, preparing the samples with gold, is to allow the electrons to discharge, basically. We don't want them to get accumulated on surfaces. So the electron beam is hitting the sample. The idea of sputter coating it with gold is to basically allow it to reach a ground more easily by being conductive.
Is this really pitted, corroded?
It seems like it, yeah. The light and dark patterns that you're seeing are because I'm using 30 kV for my voltage. So we can kind of see through a little bit, and you're seeing the COSTI. Yeah, you're seeing the COSTI. So pragmatic, it's not that the images are loading, it's actually drawing it. So people say that regularly, that they feel like they're watching a JPEG load from the internet from the 80s or 90s. But it's actually building the image as we see it build. So there's almost no delay between when it actually goes across the surface and when we see it. It's just taking it a while to scan. Yeah, so this has this sort of pitted structure in the middle, and then it does have sort of a, I don't know, quilensis looking shape to it. It's not highly, it's not highly, what do we call that? Tangentially undulate. So,
I think these seem to get a little more or less undulate with their diameter. At least they appear that way on the light microscope. Maybe it's just a feature of that. But from these, I get the sense that they get a little more undulate or less based on the diameter. I did not notice a runifortula on that one.
would we see it on the outside?
Maybe, but it wouldn't be super pronounced.
Just the opening, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little neopinata-like thing. It's a fragment of a bigger naviculoid-like thing, I guess. Oops, here's something. There's something on this and maybe something here. Yeah.
Internal.
It's a little bit broken, but you can see the ring, not the ring, the rim of Portula is actually right here.
Yep.
And the Mantophotoportula are visible, but degraded, and then it has areolae.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a cyclotella, but not a cyclotella.
So nothing coming up obvious as a central strutted process, which puts it into this funky group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we have a working name for this funky group?
Cyclotella-like.
The not cyclotellas.
Oh,
How does this compare with your Fascinoides?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
that's a possibility on this group.
We had some conversations with Andy. It was a little bit of like, should we lump things into Fascinorbis or shouldn't we lump things into Fascinorbis? And Andy was hesitant to do any lumping at all. So, and Mark and I were a little more comfortable with lumping. So,
Well, my undergraduate advisor was a strict splitter. But
I mean, I think there's an advantage to splitting some things. For the sense of understanding how they evolve, I think it's actually pretty useful to split things out to the best of our ability. It just becomes like, where do you draw a line? And then, like, how important is a character? There's a whole bunch of things that become philosophical. And so people could have philosophical disagreements that, I mean, everything's a concept above the species level. So it just becomes like, where do you think this fits, and what's the best language for making it useful for people? So I think there's actually a lot of things that I was talking to Laura before this started a little bit about Fascinorbis and why we split it out. and then there's a lot of things in this time frame, the Miocene and stuff around this realm where it's just been orphaned. Like there's no place for it in our modern categorization of Cyclotella anymore because it has areolae on the valve face, and so and it's got its rimoportula on the clearly on the costi. So like it's in a non-place, and I think that's a bad spot for it. So we probably need to put it somewhere.
Oh, there's a precedent for putting this, the valve face areolae with the split of Lindae and Campishecula. That was their big point, was that Lindavias have areolae on the valve face, and the central area of Campishecula does not.
Yeah.
Which is minimally backed up with so.
I don't know. It's usually like there's just not a good solution for a lot of, really a lot of the cyclotelloids. They're a disaster. So and
they're a work in progress. That's what you're saying.
Right. They need more salt. They're not done cooking. So something, I don't know. But I don't think that we have I think we have a good handle on some characters that are useful, and then there's still issues no matter what you do, even with those characters. So like even the Davia, I feel like, there's this thing that we have in June Lake that the rimoportula is sometimes on the valve face, sometimes on a costi.
Good news, everyone!
And I have at least one specimen where it's both on the costi and on the valve face together on the same specimen. So it just, I just don't know what to do with some of it. And, I don't know that anybody does, but we need to, I think it's just hard when the characters are kind of flexible like that.
Especially if this
Especially.
really muddies things up.
It definitely doesn't make things easy for us to put it into a category. But it explains why some I mean, if you have some characters that aren't stable with respect to like Cyclotella, for example, it kind of explains why we have such a hard time with it, because some of the things that we would think of as Cyclotella, they just don't grok well with what we get sometimes. So
We were having a discussion in one of our seminar groups here that about these concepts, a species concept, a genus concept, and one of the ideas that came from that, of course nobody's really taken up, would be to come up with like a genus or a species coefficient to say we are this % confident that this is a genus. But maybe Lindavia cyclotella in this group has a very low species or genus coefficient. We're 50-50 on these. Might be a nice way to categorize things. What's that?
I was gonna skip this one, but actually,
Oh.
it's super interesting.
Really weird going on in there.
I took a look at it, and then I was like, "Oh, you can see the face and the rimoportula. I mean, not the rimoportula, the ring least. And are these the rimoportula?"
There's a number of them that have the rimoportula that run through the ring lice like that. They
Oh, really?
look really cool in the light microscope when you focus it just right, because they have sort of like
A curl.
a little curl in there.
Yeah.
My original thought was, it's an alveolophora, but you're right. Those are probably the ring lice, or the
Rimoportula. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I was gonna skip it, but then I was like, oh, I can see both things. I should do this. I should keep this. So maybe I should focus on the backside though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, this is a super interesting view. I get really excited when I get views where I can see the inside and the outside of something at the same time. So when the face breaks and you can just sort of see into it, I always think that's fascinating because students have a hard time, I think, picturing sometimes the inside versus the outside and connecting how those pieces fit together. And I feel like when you have both views at the same time, it kind of like fixes that. You know exactly what you're looking at because you're like, oh, this is what it looks like on the inside. Here's what it looks like on the outside. It's kind of crazy.
You should have been a surgeon.
Yeah, I don't think I would have done a very good job with that. If it's any way similar to the way I treat diatoms, I feel like they probably wouldn't want me as a surgeon. They're going to be like, this guy doesn't care about clones. Oh, there's like a whole conversation I'm missing on the actual like every time the image loads, I should play the tone for like dial up. That would be amazing. Probably get annoying after a little while. Tangentially undulate means undulating along the tangent as opposed to concentrically undulating around the middle, right? So like if you took a line and then you undulated along that line, as opposed to drawing a circle and having it undulate around the circle, right? I don't know how else to say it. Is there a more elegant way of saying it, Mark?
Oh, the best way to do it is to actually show a demo of something that has it. But typically for diatoms, if you draw, like take a circular diatom and draw a line so it splits into two, one side of the diatom is higher and the other side is lower, and so that's the undulation that is called tangential. It's kind of a quirky description because it, we think of a tangent as running alongside the edge of something. But
let's see. Someone says, "Is this pragmatic?" I'm 1,000% sure you've answered this before, but how did you land diatoms as my study? I don't know. I wanted to work on something that could be used as a tool for reconstructing environments in terrestrial settings. And I had already looked in the marine realm. That's where I did a lot of my master's work. And then when it got to the freshwater realm, there was pollen, which I didn't like the idea of. And because it's a lot of nasty chemicals, and they're not really very attractive, to be honest. They're not. Some of them can be charismatic, but a lot of them aren't. So they definitely don't have the same charisma as diatoms do. And so I was looking for something that could be used as a proxy, a good proxy for environmental change. And I had my friend Jackie Huvane, who was working on a project with us, and I was looking at micromollusks in Florida Bay, and she was looking at diatoms. And she showed me some of them, and then we started talking about what you could use them for. And that's sort of where I kind of got to looking at diatoms as my primary tool. So she suggested, well, I said I was looking to get my PhD, and I was trying to figure out who I could work with. And she suggested Sherry Fritz. So, and that's where I started. So, but before that, I didn't know what a diatom was. So, and it was kind of crazy to me how quickly I went from not knowing what a diatom was to being in a position to start describing them. Because like in 1999, I didn't know what a diatom was. And in 2002, people were like, you should describe this as a new species. So that was just like a 3-year jump between not knowing what one was to somebody telling me this is probably a new species and you should describe it. So
And then in 2015, I had the same experience. I joined Jeffrey's lab,
exactly.
and he said, here's a bunch of samples from 3 million years ago from Africa. Oh, and they're probably mostly new species.
When did you first figure out what a diatom was, Mark?
I learned in college, when I think it was probably my spring term of my sophomore year. Never had heard of them before, and took plant biology, and it was introduced to us, and we looked at them under the microscope for the first time. But for me, it was actually kind of late in the game. I was a biochemistry major and was feeling sort of lost and not quite sure why I wanted to do that, and so I took an opportunity and went to a field station for a summer, and I took an algae class. And was, got a real strong introduction to diatoms. After that, it was, I realized that I wanted to do something with algae, and so went searching for graduate schools, and ended up going to work with Dr. Stormer at the University of Michigan. And that was my introduction to him. So, and one of the first things that happened with me is I was culturing diatoms, and they went through sexual reproduction. So my very first publication I worked on was describing for the first time sexual reproduction in a pretty common diatom that's called Stephanodiscus niagarae.
We've had it on this show relatively recently. So,
oh, cool.
So people who come here regularly probably know that one.
Yeah.
Although...
Okay, well, I've got another meeting, so I gotta jump off here.
Okay. We'll see you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and let's set up another meeting kind of soon to really discuss the taxonomy and go over some of the images.
Yeah, and I can share some of the images, that we already have.
Uh-huh.
Sounds great.
There we
Good
go.
to see you. Oh, there's a good one. Right, I got to
tangential
run
undulation.
just as this one pops up.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
No worries. All right, have a good one.
All right.
All right.
So have you reached total meeting exhaustion? You've been doing it since this morning?
Oh, well, this is kind of fun to. I can even virtually being on a scanning electron microscope is fun.
Yeah. I could actually give you control of it.
Let's not do that. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't think I've been on an SEM for I bet maybe 3 years since I've been on an SEM.
Wow.
We don't have one at my institution, so I have to go visit colleagues to do that. So if I show up on your doorstep with my suitcase, Jeffrey, it's because I want to use your SEM, all right? And I'll see your birds in the backyard.
It's
too.
Totally fine. We could go birding together. You should. We should make it we should plan for it. You're vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. We're ready to go.
Yeah, it feels liberating to be fully vaccinated, I'll tell you. That was part of our reason and rationale to take this trip out west. Is like, you know what? We're all 2 weeks in. We can do this.
Yeah. Sherry and Joe are coming through to stay with us in the beginning of June.
Oh, neat.
So, and they're like, "Are you guys okay if we're staying here?" It's like, "Yeah, we're all vaccinated. It's fine." I mean, Sylvia's not, but she's too
Jeffrey,
young.
What's that little picture shoot, it just clicked off. It was a thumbnail down in the lower, whatever you call it.
Hang on. I could probably get to it.
It was
this?
No, go two back. That thing, what is that?
That is a larva from a Luna moth.
Oh, my word.
So, did it disappear? Oh, I think it just disappeared. It's in a slideshow, so it just goes wherever it wants.
Sure. I saw it and I thought, what? I actually assumed it was some sort of larva. I was figuring it was some sort of aquatic thing that you would come up with. But,
Oh, Anna wants to know if she could come join the birding.
There you go.
Of course. You could join the Zoom if you wanted to, Anya. I don't care. Um, the it would be a good. That'd be a good time. You could come use the SEM. We do a little birding in the afternoon. Be perfect.
Yes.
Just tell me when you got an opening in your schedule. We'll set it up. You could actually hang out with the kids in my lab a little bit. Show them what you know.
What town? You're in Terre Haute, is that right?
Yeah. If you got something going on the East Coast, we're on 70, so you just have to come through 70, basically.
Okay.
Let's see. One of the
you're right
people
on the
asked,
border.
"Where is the SEM?" Yeah, we're all in. This is my lab's in Terre Haute, Indiana. So
Okay.
yeah, right on the border between Eastern Time and Central Time,
Sure.
such that I'm always confused when I go to Illinois, and I'm like, what just happened? I'm on the wrong. I'm not. I'm here early every time. I never remember when I'm traveling because it's such a short distance, and then I'm like in a different time zone. Yeah, this is an interesting little guy. There's all this stuff on the valve face going on, and then there's sort of this colliculate structure sticking up at us and depressed down into the field of view. And clearly spines. So again,
Yeah.
the combination of areolae on the valve face plus spines just by itself creates problems.
Cyclotelloid.
Right. As yet unnamed cyclotelloid. Whatever I put on it as a name is going to be wrong, so. Every time we have people like my grad students come in and use the SEM for either streaming or for not streaming, they're always just like, I can't believe 2 hours just passed.
Yeah.
Because you get on there and then you're just in the zone of the tiny graveyard zone, and time just warps around you. So, but this is where my afternoons go a lot of time. Just into the sample.
Okay.
Doing anything fun for work?
Yeah, we just actually spent yesterday most of the day working on prepping for field work this summer. So,
Is this national or international?
regional. So one of the things that we're doing is we install. I'm going to use a oxymoron here. We install submerged buoys in we have buoys that have monitoring instruments that go down into the depth of the lake, and we put the float 1.5 to 2 meters below the surface, so no one can
Right.
mess around with it or see it.
Secret.
And that's what we were setting up. Ooh, there's a butte. That's what we were setting up yesterday. So these are sort of fairly straightforward setups with a temperature logger every meter, and then dissolved oxygen loggers at the bottom of the lake, and then a little closer to the top to understand sort of the physical and thermal dynamics of the lake. And these once we deploy them, they take readings every 30 minutes. So sometimes over the course of a open water summer season, you'll get 50,000 to 75,000 data points that you collect, depending on how deep the lake is. And it really, and it provides information that you simply can't get. Most monitoring of lakes is typically once a month. You go out, take a profile, and we see things happening in lakes that aren't detectable with monthly monitoring.
Yeah.
And these are things that are really important to the condition and health of these water bodies. And then you're also setting up some sediment traps, so understanding what's drifting down through the water column into the bottom of the lake. And then we're getting ready to do some coring next week as well. So taking sediment cores from the bottom of some lakes in Minnesota.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, should be good. It was the first time a lot of us have. The pandemic has changed everything for us, of course, and so some of us have we've seen each other just a handful of times in the last year, and it was kind of nice to be back and working with coworkers as well. Most everyone's fully vaccinated now, so we're still wearing masks most of the time, but you feel a little more comfortable with the situation. So.
Our university just changed their policy so that we are allowed to wander around without masks in the hallway if we're vaccinated. And I have to tell you, it was the weirdest experience. Like, stepping into the hallway and then being like, am I allowed to do this? Like,
yeah, who's going to yell at me?
walking around without a mask on. And I just went over to the Student Union Center here to get lunch today, and it's the first time I've ever gone over there without a mask on, even though we were allowed to, like, starting last week. I just still wore my mask going over there because there's more people, and I feel like it's like a lot of people here. But there's a lot of people who aren't wearing them because they're all vaccinated, and so but it was very weird for me. I was like, this is totally strange to be in like this many people with no mask on. So
they just changed policies here, and one of the grocery stores nearby, I walked in and everyone was wearing masks in there still, and as I walked out of the grocery store, I just turned around and like the sign that said you're required to wear a mask is gone now. And I asked the checkout young man who was doing the checkout, I said, what? I said, what's he said, well, it says you're not, if you're vaccinated, you're not required to wear one anymore, but everyone still is. But it's getting to feel strange coming back to it here. So
yeah,
I work at the Science Museum of Minnesota, which is a big public exhibit museum in St. Paul, and right now we're trying to find that sweet spot of how we handle larger crowds in the museum and masking and everything else.
So this is a really interesting sample. One, it's super clean. There's like nothing on the surface of it.
Yeah.
You can see the little pads where the spines go right here.
Yep.
All around the top, so we know that it had spines. These openings that are larger on the ends of the costae mantle photoportula, of course. This one splits right here, which is kind of interesting. And then on the opposite side down here, you can't see it yet because it hasn't redrawn it yet, but I noticed it when I was preparing the picture. So I did this one at a slower speed because it looks gorgeous to me. So the remiportula hole is present, and you can see it's bigger, and it's located at the and I noticed this with a lot of these Miocene or Pliocene aged cyclotelloids, where they have a transverse undulation, and then the remiportula is located basically along the axis of undulation. And it's always like, if they're eyeball shaped or egg shaped or whatever, it's always on that line. So it kind of fits into that same structure that I've been observing from these, which is kind of interesting, that it has a fixed place for the Rumiportula, because people ask me, oh, what's the Rumiportula do? And I'm always like, I don't know. I think they use it to reposition the nucleus when they're dividing, but other than that, I don't know anything.
Jeffrey, do you see that same, you may not know the answer to this, do you see that same placement of the Rumiportula in something like Cyclotelominiginina? I seem to remember that's got it like opposite the central strutted process of your central photoportula.
It's a good question.
Rather than along that line of undulation. And maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know. I need to look.
Keep that observation you just made in your head.
Oh, it's there. It's there.
It's interesting to.
It's definitely locked in there because the little guy that I took pictures of last, I don't know, 2 years ago or whatever. I sent you another little tiny guy that we never described.
Yeah.
It was very similar in shape to this one, and it had the same thing. It always had a Rumiportula along that line of the undulation.
So, I'm a little curious about this description. So is the Rumiportula going to be down at about 5 o'clock, or is it going to be at? So it is okay. So
it's down here,
so along that line of
along this axis of the undulation or whatever.
Okay, that actually
not the cross, but this one.
Okay, that actually would be more similar to like a Microscope placement. So.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not opposite. It's the long axis.
Okay, I was thinking you were describing the other axis.
Oh no, when they're eyeball shaped, like when the diatom is like eyeball shaped, and it's more pointy. It's always on one of the points or both of the points. It's always there.
Okay.
Because the undulation's always opposite that.
Yep.
Yeah, I can.
I'm getting excited to see it. Come on.
The suspense. This is the paint's drying very slowly for this one, so. Yeah. We still have a little ways to go before it gets down to the bottom, so. This one's slightly egg-shaped.
Yeah, I noticed that when you first pulled it up.
Edges are a little weird, too. And I didn't use any of that time to check in with the comments.
I should have kept my mouth shut. Sorry.
It's all right. Let's see. Have you seen the guy on YouTube who rebuilt a rudimentary electron microscope in his home electronics lab? I have not. People mention it to me, like when I tell them how much the SEM costs, they're always like, "Oh, you can build it at home." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe." It probably is still pretty expensive. He used an old CRT. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, they've already got the scanner on it, right? So there it is.
She blows.
Yeah,
right there.
Really distinct, and the Costy's also like bigger.
It's a beautiful specimen.
Yeah.
The Costy's got a much broader area to it. Oh.
I did okay with this picture. Sometimes I do okay work.
You nailed it.
Well, that one was worth the wait, I think.
Yeah, that's a great shot. Got a sneaking internal view of the same thing.
See what I can do. I don't know if we have an internal view yet. Let me look. probably we do. Let's see. Yeah, we have some internal views, but none of them are as nice.
Okay.
So there's always some junk in them, you know? They always got to have junk in them. Just put crazy names on stuff while I'm making the files. See what we can do. It's pretty small, so... So is that some Alicosira entirely inside of a girdle band? I'm always amazed when it's millions of years old and the girdle bands are still perfect. It's like, what happened here?
That is amazing, isn't it? This little thinnest layer of silica possible, and it's just happy it's still there.
No problem.
Yeah.
Still wants to obscure my view even from a million years ago. But there's another one with a curve.
Oh, one of the curved Alicosiras. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And also puzzle piece. The spines aren't totally visible, but they're the little puzzle piece type.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got better pictures of that.
Okay. Yeah, so that's an interesting group of a diatom. You're just seeing a little fragment of two cells that are next to each other. But you notice it's curved. And so what this diatom actually, think of those hooked, think of dozens of those hooked up next to each other, and it actually grows as a spiral colony. It's curved. And it spirals around.
Yeah. They look like macaroni noodles. Or I'm hungry. One or the other.
Yep. Hey, you said you had lunch already.
I did eat lunch.
Yeah.
That's just a boring old Starosira. Yeah.
They're boringly common. They're one of these groups of diatoms that almost no matter what sample you're ever going to look at in your life, you're going to see, except maybe in a marine world, but you're going to see some of these little fragilarioid diatoms.
So my impression is that they mostly start out benthic or like intermediate depth water.
Mm-hmm.
Is that usually your experience?
Yeah, there's a handful of them that live attached to grains that, they're pretty happy doing that. But my sense is that when water gets stirred up, they end up in the water column sometimes, and they're just up getting a few nutrients, getting a little light, and especially in shallow to medium depth lakes where you're going to have some good water movement, they become oftentimes like that. I've looked at sediment core samples where 90% of the diatoms in there are these little fragilarioid things that have very difficult to characterize growth habits and difficult to characterize nutrient tolerances and stuff like that. Yeah. But
I think Sherry refers to them as weeds.
I can't abuse diatoms that much.
Carlin's, my wife Carlin's PhD work had a bunch of lakes that just had those in them. That was like one slide after another. That's all that was in there. And there was this big transition between like some Starosira and maybe Starosirella or something. And I was like, oh my God, no thanks. This is not the project I was looking for. Little round things are okay when there's a lot of them, but the little fragile areas not so much.
Yep.
Let's see, where are we? Any plans for today? What are you doing when you get off of the Zoom parade here?
Oh, digging into a few things. I'm working on reformatting, reconfiguring a manuscript that was poorly received in the first go round. So that's one of the things on my docket.
Yuck.
Yeah. Sometimes you want them to move along, so you can. But,
Major revision or total rewrite?
mostly it was just turned down. No one said they hated it particularly. They just didn't want to publish it. So.
Oh. Well, that sucks.
Look at that. Interesting pattern. What in the world?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Huh.
Not yet, anyway. I mean, it looks like an Alicacera, right?
Yeah, it sure does. It had just a strange little pattern of little rows of Toki on the outside of it.
Let's see what they look like when I slow it down. Still there. All the way up.
Yeah, they are.
All the way up.
Yeah, that's worth taking a picture of to ponder what the heck's going on with it. What in the world?
It's like
Huh.
big holes and little holes.
Yeah.
Like all the diatoms. Also, these are slit shaped,
Yeah. This is really weird looking.
right? These are
Yeah, they are.
slit shaped pores. All right. And when I feel like I've done a good job, when I've stumped Mark, that's my goal for.
I'm sitting here trying to come up with a really good explanation for this patterning on there.
When I feel like I've accomplished every conversation I have with you when I've stumped you at least once, and
There you
then
go.
and then later on I'll be like, I'll get a message from you. You'll be perfectly well explained, whatever it was. Let's see. Oh, there's a whole bunch more chat I've missed again, of course. Yeah, not quite the quality of our SEM from the homemade one, probably. Let's see. Nut Honey says, I used an SEM at North Carolina State almost 40 years ago. And it's amazing what the image quality differences are. Yeah. This isn't even a field emission. This is like the bottom tier of the SEM world. Still pretty good.
I'm doing math and going back 40 years, so that was 1980-ish. And SEMs, I think the first published diatom SEMs were 1972, something like that. So that was, their transmission electron microscopes came out in the 30s.
Really?
But the scannings were much later in the process. I think it was 72 was maybe the first diatom images that came out with SEM. So shooting SEM in 1980 was those were early machines for sure.
Yeah. Explorer.
Yeah.
Nate, this is a Tuscan Vega 3. I think if you type, if I type into here with my little bot will tell you all these things. If I've done things correctly. There you go.
What in the world is going on with this diatom? That is
No.
so...
It hasn't gotten any more reasonable
I started. I just don't. I don't have a good explanation for it. I thought, oh, it's like are we looking at like the underlying structure of the cell wall or something? But it just doesn't.
I thought maybe it was just like a ghost of the girdle band that was left wrapped around it.
Yeah, I was trying that. I thought of that as well.
But it's up onto the
I just don't see any partitioning of it.
no, and it's up onto the spines as well. So it doesn't make any sense that like clear up in here, right? But that's what's going on. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery. I'm gonna send you that picture, and then you can sleep on it.
So how many people are tuned in on the Twitch stream here?
Right now, we have 20 viewers.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Usually, it's a mix. Sometimes when I'm like, in the middle of the day, it kind of is pretty slow, actually, in terms of people, because people are at work. And then I usually see, like, if I stay on 5, 6, 7, 8 or whatever, I get more people. But I'm usually going home from the SEM before then. And so I usually try to do SEM kind of in the late afternoon so that if there's people in Europe, they could still watch it if they'd like.
Sure.
But it limits a bunch of people from the East Coast who are busy being at work and stuff. But I don't know. My stream's usually somewhere between, I would say 20 and 40 people are watching them regularly. And then I would say, like, on occasion, I'm in the hundreds. Usually in the evenings, there's a bunch of other streamers, and they start to they do this thing in Twitch where you can take all your streamers when you're done, and the people who are watching you, and send them to another channel.
Okay.
And they start to accumulate, basically, and then you end up with these couple of channels that are really huge, and sometimes that's my channel. So sometimes there's 150 people that I'm trying to answer questions with and also do something at the same time. But
And do you often have this sort of banter that we're doing here, or is that not normal? Is it just usually you?
Sometimes it's me and other people. So I have guests on occasionally, and that's I don't know. It's fun having other diatomists on. So, like, Anna has been on. I think once we had her on for vocals, and one of the other. Oh boy. One of the other.
Oh my.
One of the other, some of the other streamers sometimes I have on my channel, and I'll be on theirs. So Pacific Plankton, I think she's still here. She was driving her car and was tuning in from her phone. But she's usually on my channel, and I'm on her channel, so we hang out. And I'm sure you've seen all those pictures that I post of marine diatoms from San Francisco Bay.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Those are samples she sends me. So,
like,
particularly when I'm doing samples that she sends me, I usually will have her on as a guest, and then I'll sometimes show up and also be on her stream. So I'm gonna try to fix this this view a little bit, because those are spectacular pore coverings, and I think I can do better. Hang on a second. Now we're in the realm where I get to play with my stigmation. Let's see if I can fix it. I feel like that's making it worse. It's a little bit better. Okay, a lot better. That's about as good as it gets. Yeah, we're zoomed in right now at 200,000 times, so I'm I'm a little close. I'm going to zoom back out, and then I'm going to take a nice high-res view of this thing. Whatever we're looking at, ideas, Mark?
Um,
I've stumped myself this time. I don't know what this is. These are spines? I don't know.
they look spine-like, don't they?
This is super weird.
I'm pulling up. I'm on my computer. I'm pulling up some images I have of light micrographs I've taken of these round diatoms at this site, and nothing is jumping out.
Well, we'll see what it looks like in high res here. It's going to be a 10-minute puzzle.
Oh my.
Oh, Anna, do you have any ideas? She's out there in the audience somewhere still. I think she said she's going to leave soon, but...
She wrote chonky spines.
Yeah. Chunky. Oh, we could have Anna on whenever she likes. She just has to let me know she's gonna, have a test with her son or whatever, whenever she can manage it. It would be fun to do one of these for the like a Diatom Web Academy or something, where we just had a bunch of diatomists and everybody was here watching the SEM.
Don't say things you're not willing to commit to we definitely can do it.
I'm here already.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we're doing this, like, I'm watching it via Zoom, so that's the same outlet.
Yeah, they could just come in through Zoom, and I could just have people here.
Yeah, I like the idea because of this sort of broader audience that you're able to reach in this situation, and having the ability to showcase diatoms to. I mean, you could do this for a group of elementary school kids.
I could.
You could do it for a high school class, or you could do it for part of a science, a college class even.
Yeah, and I've had people use, because my streams are recorded.
Yep.
And then I've had some people tell me they use it as part of their courses. Like, they'll have little bits of clips and pieces of it, basically, or they'll send a link and have their students watch the videos, if it's about diatoms. Yeah, anybody in the world. That's the nice part about it, is they can just tune in to the channel and see what's going on. And like I said, I don't... so we don't just do diatoms on the streams. You saw caterpillars. Sometimes I do pollen. Sometimes we'll do... Like, I had a whole 2-week episode where every time what I would do is go out and grab some flowers and bring them back, and then I would mount the pollen onto tape, basically, right in the lab, and then showcase all of that and stuff it in the SEM right after that, so they could see it, the flower, the mounting, the sputter coating, straight into the SEM. So it's kind of fun. And yeah, I still don't know what this is.
Does the pollen in that situation handle the sputter coating okay? Does it collapse or anything? Does it look pretty good?
Yeah, it looks fine. Some of them are a little collapsed or a little distorted, but I thought they looked really, really neat. We've had I had as a student upstairs that works on lizards, and we had her come. She dissected lizards, and we have a little document camera so you could see her actually doing the dissection, and then we'd take the scales and pieces of them and put them into the SEM right afterwards. We just do whatever. It's nice. I think somebody's knocking on my lab door. I'm gonna leave you with this mystery for a second. I'll be back. Go see what they want.
All right. We'll watch the scan of this very unknown diatom.
Yeah, the door's open, so it's not that. Probably just somebody rattling around in the hallway. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here still.
One thing that's interesting to me, Jeffrey, is we always I don't recall ever using an SEM in a lit office. We always did it in the dark.
You want me to turn the lights off?
No, you don't have to, but you seem to be able to take beautiful images and manipulate this thing just perfectly fine in your lighted room.
I'm often in this lab with students, so I feel a little awkward if the lights are off.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, but I have a feeling it's also has to do a lot with the improvements in the technology that these, the screens that you're watching are higher resolution, everything else.
So let's see. Any microgeology? That's not really a thing. Pragmatic? There's just geology. There's people that look at stuff in small scale. We haven't actually put any mounted geology slides in the SEM for Twitch before, but we could do it. We have an elemental analyzer. We could actually look at minerals and tell you what they are. And then Nathan Nomad asks, is there any sort of an imagery database for diatoms? And I gave him the link for diatoms.org. I wanted to show you this, Mark, while you're here, because I use the diatoms.org website all the time. If you see this, I have a little robot that does things, so I can tell it Discostella with this command, and then it automatically gives the link for people who are in Twitch to go to the Diatoms of North America website to Discostella. And because I am always spouting out diatom names like Alicosira or whatever, I just have a little thing where I tell it whatever, Alicosira, and then it comes up with the guide page. Yeah, you have to be able to spell it, but I can spell them, so it's fine. And then it immediately links them to the guide page. So I've been using that in here I built that little robot command about 2 months ago or something. And watch this, though. Let's see. Pine warbler. I also do it for birds with the All About Birds webpage. This is a nice tool for people because when people build websites, they always build them with these same structure, like the genus is stuck in there or the common name is stuck in there. And so I can just develop them basically and stick that little thing into my code, and then it immediately links them to the web page, which I think is really nice. So.
Yeah, the diatoms.org site is a amazing resource. I can say that with pride. So.
Playing Around says I should do the SEM under candlelight. We just have a little romantic setting in here. I guess if my wife came, we could do it in candlelight. That'd be fine. Those are really some chunky spines, to be honest. That thing has some really wide spines on it.
Yeah, they're just.
And also, it's got this here hole.
Yeah,
Whatever this hole is.
That's that thing that is sort of, there's this series of cyclotella that have been described that have that little thing in the middle like that. That I think it's that Kanzazica, pseudo-Kanzazica. I think it's that group that has that funny structure. But this is just.
And look at I think the thing that's amazing is the occlusion is just absolutely preserved.
Yeah, the material. These samples are just beautiful.
That is so gorgeous. And what's going on there? It's like a cribra, right? It's just like a cribra covering. Those are so weird. I have no idea what that is.
When I look at this diatom, so I'm going to say this and knowing it shouldn't be true, but I look at this and it looks marine to me. Looks like this thing belongs in the ocean.
Is that because
I just
you don't recognize it, or
part of it is it because I don't recognize it, and part of it is it just looks wrong for fresh water. So, but
it does look like some of those weird marines things. I don't know.
yeah,
That's a super weird looking diatom. We found a gem.
yeah. I'm gonna reach over to grab a book. Hold on.
Uh-oh. I wonder if...
What it makes me want to do is get these slides under the scope and start searching around. What's the diameter of that specimen, Jeffrey? Can you tell from here?
Yeah, hang on.
Probably even measure it without even.
I can measure it right on the screen if you'd like, but I thought I would just make it full size and then I could tell you. The field of view is 5 microns.
Okay.
And that's the entire field of the diatom. So it's 5 microns big.
That's a tiny little stinker. Wow. Wow.
It
wow.
is. Which is why I needed 200,000 times magnification in order to see the cribripores or whatever they are. Do you want me to tilt it? I could tilt it.
Yeah, if you want, you could tilt it on maybe that. Yeah, again, I've not used. I don't know exactly how much. Listen to that thing. It's just going to do it for you.
It's gonna try. Let's see. I moved a little bit when I did that, so I need to put it back. And
That's still it. Yep.
I'm going to... Yeah, I don't think I can... Let's just go like 20 degrees.
Tip the top of it away from you, or what are you going to do here?
I can rotate it once it's tilted. I just want to do it without losing it. This side has the smallest spines, and I think these are probably the
Something.
The Mantophotoportula.
Yeah, if we're talking in this last I think we are. I mean, I do think we are. Oh, this is a cool diatom, Jeffrey.
Okay, hang on. I'll try not to wreck my instrument here.
Oh yeah, someone commented the scale is down there. You bet. Okay, thank you.
Well, that's 25 degrees. I don't know that I can see much of it. I'm going to...
You get it up to 40 or not?
Oh,
That's
easily.
too much?
Yeah, I can do it.
Give it a shot.
Just... Easier to do when I don't have the whole carousel on here.
Oh, yeah. Good working distance on this thing. My.
Oh, hang on a second.
Too much charging at this angle, or?
No, I don't think so. I just, it didn't like me typing something, trying to see what it was. Yeah, it's saying it can't keep the field of view if I do that.
Okay.
So 35 might be the limit with the carousel the way it is.
All right. Go ahead. I would say go ahead and grab that shot, regardless. I'm sitting here paging through my copy of Round It All, trying to find anything, and nothing jumps out.
The Yellow Atlas, is that what you're talking about?
Just the old Diatoms book.
Gotcha.
I can't get it to show on my screen here because I'm
Right. I know what you're talking about.
that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's redo that. And I need to focus. And then let's creep it up a little bit.
Drop the contrast down.
Yeah, I'm just going to try to bump us up a little closer to the... We're in the tricky realm.
Yep.
I don't want to hit the anything, really.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay. Well, you can really see the spines this way, though, so that's nice. And
Good. Oh, right there at the top. That's cool.
it's going to look good. I have a feeling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a little star-shaped rim of portula of some kind, I think.
Photo.
Photoportula, yeah, sorry. Let's see. Well, that's kind of all I got for focal distance at the point we are, so...
Oh, I wonder what that's an English muffin spore. The beginning of their life cycle. I love it.
Let's see if I can fix that contrast to show a little bit.
Well, someone asked what book I was using. I think I mentioned it, but it's Round Crawford and Mann, which was published 30 years ago, 1990. But it was a book that, at the time, it sort of summarized through some real nice light and scanning electron micrographs most of the known diatom genera at the time. It's sort of a go-to book to grab when you just want to, look at a bunch of stuff and try to figure, start finding a direction to go with something that's completely out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. This is what happens when I started looking at the San Francisco Bay stuff, and I was just
I
like,
bet.
I don't know what this is. Just one thing after another.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't do marine stuff, so... But now I'm actually kind of getting pretty good at it, so there's that.
Yep.
There's always room for growth. Well, I'll just try and take it like this. I'll settle for good enough. I can also... I can try to map where we are on this sample and then take all the other stubs off and put that just on by itself, and I could probably get you like a 60-degree angle on it if you want to sear it up the side of it, but not today.
No. What's the sample number on this one?
Just Grove is all I got from...
Okay, so it's the Grove sample that
yeah.
Joe prepped up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Whatever
Right.
Grove
I'll
sample.
have to take a next time I'm in at the lab with my better scope. I'm gonna get get the samples on there. This is just something I've never seen before. This is really interesting. I've continued to look at a series of images I have of other round diatoms in this deposit, and just nothing looks right in it compared to what you're shooting an image of here. So,
I mean, it's so small. I think probably it would be hard to see a lot of it.
yeah,
You know?
it's 5 microns. You're gonna blow by it if you're not keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah, especially mixed in with all this ash.
Yeah,
So, I don't know. That's a pretty cool looking diatom, though.
sure is.
People always on Twitch get excited when I tell them, oh, this is probably a new species, but this could be a whole new genus. I have no idea.
I mean, it could very well be. That's what's so interesting about it. You scooch around this sample, keep an eye out for internal views of little round things.
Well, I think I wouldn't be able to mistake it. The cribra are kind of exposed here, so
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
I mean, they very much, look at those size of those spines. They're big flat plates.
Yeah,
But those definitely look like a marginal fultoportula on the edge.
right
too,
here,
doesn't
yep. Where the star-shaped things, yep.
it? Yeah.
And that's probably some sort of a process
Yeah, I
that we
would
should
think
see.
so.
Should see something on the inside for that. I don't know.
Hmm.
Look vaguely Disco Stella-like to me, but there's no Costi for me to like.
No, no, it's nothing to orient yourself to it and to give you any kind of comfort
Right.
with it. Very cool.
Unknown angled. Mystery diatoms. I love it. I was also saying this to Laura the other day, or earlier today, that like, there's no end to the mystery of what we do. You know, like, it's just like, you come across something like this and it's just like, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. You've never seen anything like it. No one knows what it is.
Yep.
And we don't have a good explanation for anybody about what it could be either.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to untilt because I always feel like tilting is the danger zone. Because you can always break something if I'm tilted, but
Yeah.
it's harder to do when I'm flat. Now it looks weird to me. The angle looks weird. Okay, let's see. Speed settings. Also, I lost my brightness is messed up.
Yeah. I'm going to have about 5 more minutes here, Jeffrey. Just
That's good.
stick with you.
That'll be good, and then we'll just be a good time to end the stream as well.
Okay.
They've seen enough. We've revealed enough mysteries for one day for them.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Do not drop the sample in the garbage can.
Well,
Too
I'll
cool.
probably just get Mallory to make us some more
Mm-hmm.
of this sample, and then I'll see what I can do about finding us some more of these weird little guys. Maybe we can find some clean internal views. I'll put it on my to-do list, my shopping list for this sample.
Here you go.
I picked up a couple of things, and I will send you guys a link to all the SEM images for you and Joe,
Okay.
so you can ponder them. You can print them out and sleep on them if you'd like.
There you go. Stick them under the pillow.
Maybe the diatom fairy will reveal what they are.
A big reveal, right?
It's either that or they'll give you a quarter and they'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I should probably say thanks for hanging out with us. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great.
The SEM is always fun time for me. and it's in my lab, so it's fun time whenever I want, usually, as long as I'm not teaching. So we'll return to this topic again. And if you guys have time and you want to swing by and do another one of these where we do it on Twitch, that's fine. Since we're in summer mode, I don't have any classes for the next month, and
Good news, everyone.
I'm just working with students on research projects.
Okay.
So the opportunity to look at things for me is vastly improved when I'm not teaching at the same time.
Awesome. Yeah, it'd be great to get through some of these and document some of this stuff. I think we just from these first looks we've seen, probably some that you've seen, recognize that there's some neat stuff in here.
Yeah. So I'll probably also, I'll get Mallory to make us like a whole carousel's worth of stubs from each one of these. So we'll have plenty of material to look through. And then I'll start searching for a couple of the internal, external things that we need to help characterize them. And yeah, and we can kind of take a look at what we have right now, and well, it's like a little piece of Chex Mix in there. Somebody was eating Chex in my sample.
Okay. Well, we're off live again.
Oh, can you not see what's going on?
Oh yeah, the live feed seemed to poop on my end here. So.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Let's see. It's an external. So that's going to be an Oligocera.
Yeah, I think that's just that same little Oligocera from 5 million years ago that we saw.
Yep.
It might not be the same, but
But
it's in the group. It's in the disdain.
the outside character poor.
Right. Spine grooves and salt and pepper shaker head.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it's like I said, it was great having you here, and we
Yeah,
should do it
thanks.
again. And if you want me to put on a show for some people at the museum, or you got a classroom of 5-year-olds you need me to show them the SEM, just let me know.
Yeah. For 5-year-old, I bet you put bugs under there, right?
We do put bugs in here sometimes. Obviously, a moss, for example, and whatever. We could put whatever. Just let me know if you want me to do something for
And I like the idea of maybe doing something like this with the Diatom Web Academy too. That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be fun. I mean, it probably won't fit into the 1-hour format perfectly well, but
Yeah. Can you, if you were to load a carousel up, could you identify? Can you provide the machine with coordinates of where a specimen was, and sort of say, go to stub 6, and here's the coordinates, and it'll get pretty darn close.
yes and no. So you can see there's a little XYZ thing on the menu here.
Sure.
If I load up the carousel and they're all buttoned down, like actually screwed in, and then I don't move them, right? Because if I take them off of the carousel, the coordinates will get lost. But if I took a picture of that one that we had, so I have the coordinates for it, it's kept in the metadata for the file. So as long as I don't take it off the carousel, I could go right back to those coordinates.
Sure.
I mean, if you gave me some coordinates, I probably couldn't find it. But if
I was thinking of a way of doing it in a in a 1-hour format where so instead of spending a lot of time searching, you just sort of say, well, let's go look at this. Here's a Callineus or something, and say
that we could absolutely do if we planned ahead.
Dial it in.
And I took the picture of whatever it was, or just wrote down the coordinates for whatever it was. We could just touch it right in. So that's what the XYZ here will do. Allow me to go directly to the coordinates. So we could plan it out in advance and take a look at whatever you wanted to. Yeah. Piece of cake.
Love it.
Can be done.
All right. Well, yep. Okay. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. We'll look forward to following up on this some more. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
This is a great format. Love it.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's nice that people can interact with us and ask questions and things too. So.
Yeah. This is super.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to shut down the Zoom. So that's not running. And then I can kind of interact with the channel a little bit more. We're always watching history. I mean, the sample's 10 million years old or whatever, so there's always a bit of history from history. Hello, Shrink46. How are you doing? And Grace Forever. I'm doing good. You're waiting for the centipede. Yeah, we still have to get the centipede. I'm hoping that'll be Monday stream next week for Commander Shafard. I got my best people on it at home, so I'll remind her that I need a centipede for the stream. She's usually excited to find me things to put on the stream, so I think that will be well received. What has happened here? Somebody put Chex Mix on top of the thing I wanted to look at. I think this might be the internal view of that thing we were just looking at. Curse you, Chex Mix. It's about the right size. I'm going to look around a little bit more in this stub. And yeah, we're 2.5 hours in. So probably I'll stop in 15 minutes or so. All that dust is cicada fragments. No, but we could put cicadas on. We'll probably have a bunch of cicadas in my yard coming up. I hear that they're starting to emerge. And once the cicadas are out of the ground, I'll probably do a cicada stream for us. On my camera, using some macro photography in my yard. And then I'll probably take the cicada parts. My guess is that some birds will help us get some samples of the cicada parts that we'll be able to put into the SEM. So that I don't have to sacrifice any of the living ones. Although I suspect there'll be enough to go around that we'll be able to look at some cicadas in the SEM. So put it on the to-do list as well for later this summer. I can't quite dig them out of the ground, but we can wait. It won't be long. There's a little internal view of something. Not sure what that is either. I think it's cyclotelloid though. Also very small. Okay, yeah. There's only now. Zoom in on the little red eyes, yeah. Turn the volume down, why not? You don't want to hear them? Unidentified floating objects, yeah. So those were my colleagues. Mark is... actually was a TA for the course where I learned diatoms. So I think he was a postdoc at the time, and I was getting my PhD. So he's a little older than me, but always one of the people that I sort of go to when I have questions about diatoms. And it's great having Mark on the channel. And then Joe, of course, is on the other end of the spectrum. He's a former master's student who is working on this project with us. So he was in my lab, several years ago, and now working on getting a job somewhere out in the big world doing diatom stuff. So he should be graduating in 3 months or so, and then he'll have his PhD and he'll hopefully start a job someplace. So it was enlightening hearing us talk about the old microscope equipment. Mark is a really fascinating guy, and he is super knowledgeable about the history of diatomists. And I actually had him come in and give a talk to my diatom taxonomy class about the old guys, the original diatomists, the Germans who sort of described everything. And so it's super nice hearing him talk about that kind of stuff. And he's a great public speaker as well, which I think helps. So because he works for the Science Museum, he does a lot of outreach, and does a really good job of sort of relaying complicated scientific stuff to average people or just people who are interested in topics. So it's neat having him here and working on projects with him, Especially, I should point out the Diatoms of North America website, the diatoms.org website that I link everything through. Mark is sort of one of the visionaries behind that, so that's his baby, basically. So, cyclotelloid internal. So it's really nice to have him around, and I was actually kind of happy to be able to show that we're using his website like that. I'm sure he wasn't aware of it, because I don't think he has been following us on Twitch or anything like that. But love having the ability to utilize a resource that's like a public resource for education, and I'm sure that he's delighted to hear that we're using it that way as well. So pretty cool. Oh, there's a diatom we haven't seen yet. Some little Anthidium-like thing. With spines. That's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like there's little spines on it. Okay. Grab a picture of that for them. Yeah, it's nice. A nice resource that that website was funded. You couldn't do that sort of thing, have a educational outreach site like that. So it was funded by an NSF grant, I believe. So it's kind of nice to be able to utilize it for multiple purposes, I think. So if you came along late and were wondering what have I been looking at, this is diatoms from the Grove Lake diatomite in I think it's in Iowa, but maybe it's in South Dakota or Nebraska. They're not very far from each other. It's sort of in that little corner. And so these are about 6 or 7 million years old, and the diatoms are, I should say. And we sent the samples off to Joe. He looked at them in the light microscope, and then he did a what's called a heavy liquid extraction on them. So you mix up this sort of concentrated liquid to a specific gravity, and the diatoms are the same gravity as the liquid or slightly lighter than it, and so they end up just floating on the surface of it. And then the rest of the heavier particles basically fall through, and then you can just take a little bit of that stuff off of that layer with a pipette, and you'll have diatoms from that interval. And what it does is just concentrates the diatoms into one sort of refined sample. And even with that, we still have a lot of ash in this sample. So Pacific Plankton says, years ago, I visited a friend's lab at a university in Germany, and I got to see an electron microscope. Well, I mean, you can see one right here. You don't got to go to Germany for that. Is it a quantum microscope? Is quantum microscope a thing? I don't know. I don't think so. Things in the micro level, such as atoms, and macro levels, such as planets, are remarkably easy to understand. And of course, the human-sized things get super complex. Well, sometimes the little things are hard to understand as well. There's sort of layers of complexity with things. Some sort of acanthidium, rosathidium? Maybe rosathidium. Not sure what this is. Whatever it is, I don't think it's supposed to have spines. I think that's weird. Okay, well, it's reaching closing time for the stream. I want to go home, and also people might start coming in to use the scanning electron microscope, because I told them after 5 was cool. So we're going to end the stream here. I want to thank everybody for following. Hey, Rod, how you doing? It was in the 80s. Makes sense. So we'll end the stream here, and I will send you forward to somebody. Oh, let's go visit with, I don't know, you want art or more science or music? Someone give me an idea. Do I ever get the feeling that I'm studying art? Okay, thanks, Robert. We'll go visit Estorella then. She's on my list of art people. Raid Estorella. Okay. Let's see. Why is a diatom glowing? Around the outside edge, Rod, that's because around the outside edge there was a that part of it is sort of pointed towards the sensor. So think of it like if you had light shining on a surface, that's the part that's reflected back at you. So the brighter image is a result of more electrons coming to the sensor, basically. So that's a simple explanation with respect to like why it looks bright or why it looks like it's glowing. It's just basically a consequence of the outside edges are vertical. So it gives us some sense of that they're nearer to us and that they're reflecting more electrons out towards the sensor. So. Okay, we're going to rate an art. And Estorella is a really cool digital artist, and we'll send you off to see her. That'll be cool. So thank you for all the follows and for the subscriptions today from Nate the Nomad and Cyanide Teacups. And thanks for hanging out with us.